Hey, what's up guys? MGH here. Welcome back to another Arsenal related video. I love doing this. Every year I do this. I put the entire squad into Photoshop basically, and I just play around with it, talk about new signings that I would make, talk about players that I would sell. I just love it. I love doing this. I really do. And I hope you guys enjoy watching these as well. We did a tier list very recently, which I think a lot of people agreed with. Some people obviously disagreed with some of my choices, but I think I'm kind of where I need to be right now to really decide and put a video like this together. Basically, going into the new season, what I think the squad could and should look like. So what you're seeing right now is on the pitch, our first team squad, including substitutes, reserves, whatever. Okay, what you've got in the bottom left corner is players that have been out on loan in the last season, the last 12 months. Some of them less than 12 months, I guess, technically. Sambi went out in January, right? But yeah, that's basically every single Arsenal player on our books. But we are excluding some of the youth academy players and under 21 players. This is generally what the squad looks like right now. But what you can't see right now behind me, behind my camera, is players that we're linked with. And I'm going to be putting them into the team and showing you what I would do. But first, we should probably get rid of some players, right? Because it's not the biggest squad ever. I think Arsenal have one of the smallest squads. And I don't mean smallest players. I mean the least amount of players in the first team. And it felt, I think at times last season, somewhat doable and okay because we weren't playing in the Europa League for the entire season. We were knocked out of domestic cups quite early. But next season, we can't get away with that, especially with Champions League football, which is just another level tougher than the Europa League, which of course we went out in. So we can't go into next season with a squad this light. Although it looks quite nice at the moment, it's quite nicely balanced. You've got 2 players in every position. You've got 3 in that DM role. But let's see what happens if we go through this summer's transfer window and lose a couple of players. So starting in the attack, I don't see any of these players leaving. And I think Nelson is going to sign a new contract. The latest rumours are that he was approached by Italian clubs, German clubs, but his priority has always been to stay at Arsenal for the right amount of money, I guess. And I guess most importantly for him as well, it was how long that contract would be. I think he's been a very good player for us this season in terms of making an impact. He, for me, had the greatest moment of our season when he scored that winner against Bournemouth. He deserves a new contract. So for me, and remember, this is mainly my opinion, Nelson gets a new deal. Personally, though, I actually prefer him over on this wing here on the left side. But I've got a feeling that Arteta is seeing him right now as backup to Saka, but can play anywhere. Left wing, right wing, through the middle, I guess, as like a 10. Moving into midfield, we've got Emile Smith-Rowe, which I don't think he's going to be sold, but it wouldn't surprise me if maybe there are some rumours. I don't know what's happened to him. He hasn't really featured since his injury. Looks like he's struggling to get into the team. But the first player that I think definitely is leaving is unfortunately Granit Xhaka. We've all heard that he is going to Bayer Leverkusen. So that deal looks like it's pretty much done. So we're going to go ahead and sell Granit Xhaka. Do you know what? It kind of hurts. It actually does. It kind of hurts. I don't particularly want to let him go, but I think it's going to happen. In terms of Ødegaard and Fabio Vieira, I don't think we're going to be losing Vieira. Obviously, Ødegaard staying. That would be a monumental bid to try and prize him away from Arsenal. But Fabio Vieira, for me, I'm a little bit undecided on the guy. I think he needs to hit the gym a little bit more, but there's only so much he can bulk up. Like he's just a slender, small guy. Very technically gifted. He is literally a Martin Ødegaard backup. Let's have him. Let's go for another season and give him another go. Going into this DM role, which you could argue right now is both our strongest but also weakest position, because you've got El Neni, who's been injured, Jorginho, who we only just signed in January, and we've got Partey, who is rumoured to be leaving. We are going to be renovating our entire midfield, but especially in this role here. For me, I think El Neni should stay another year as a squad player. I don't think we need to sell him, but put it this way, I wouldn't be too upset if we did, as long as we replaced him. Jorginho is here to stay, but I've got a feeling that Partey might be leaving. Reports are Roma want him, AC Milan are looking at him as well. It wouldn't surprise me if Partey could walk into another top European side. He is still a very, very good player. But I think with what's going on off the pitch, I think he's actually kind of... Oh, I don't know what the word is. I think he's fallen out of favour at Arsenal, which is a shame because on his day, there isn't many better. But I have a feeling he will be leaving. I just have a feeling, especially if we get some of the targets that I'm going to be talking about. But already there is now a massive gap in our midfield, which is stressing me out. So we will talk about that soon. Then we've got in defence, of course, new signings. Zinchenko from last summer. He is here to stay. Tierney, I think it's very possible that he will be leaving, which would open up a very important position because, let's face it, Zinchenko isn't really a left-back. He is a left-back, but he's not. He's not the best defensively. He does cause issues for us when we're up against teams with rapid wingers. But, of course, Zinchenko likes to come into this area of the pitch here. It's a problem if Tierney, which I think it's going to happen, if he's sold. Tierney could be leaving the club. Apparently, Aston Villa and Newcastle want him. Again, he could go to Man City. He could easily play for top clubs. I think he's a very, very good left back. But clearly, in the system that Arteta wants to play, we don't necessarily need a left back. We basically play 3 centre backs and a left back that moves into midfield. Kivior and Gabriel, perfectly fine. They will be staying. Saliba, of course, hasn't signed his new deal yet, but he's not going anywhere yet. He's definitely here next season. But next to him, Holding, one of the longest serving players, he will be sold this summer. I'm fairly confident he will be gone. I've accidentally just dragged off the screen there. I like Holding. I don't think he's a bad player. I just don't think he's Arsenal quality anymore. And I think what we're going to see is a shift in what we've seen Ben White doing. I think he's then going to be played more as a central defender again. Obviously, when we first signed Ben White, that's where he was playing. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think Arteta sees his future as a centre-back, not a right-back. But he did a very good job for us. So I think we can safely presume that Ben White is going to move into that centre-back role at some point in the near future. Because I have heard lots of rumours that we're looking at right-backs. Tomiyasu, again, a bit of a squad player with his injuries recently, but there were times where he was basically in the first team. He can play left-back, centre-back, right-back. I love the guy, and I'm hoping next season is a little bit better for him. He's clearly a very intelligent player. He's 2-footed, and that is always a positive. We've then got Ramsdale and Turner. I don't think they're going anywhere. Those are our 2 goalkeeper options. Now, looking at the players that have been out on loan, you could argue that Tavares could come in and replace Tierney. But I don't think that's necessarily a good idea. Again, I don't even see Tavares as a left back. He's definitely, at minimum, a left wing back, someone that wants to play here. But actually, I think he could easily convert to kind of a forward player, like a left wing, or even a right winger with that left foot rocket of his. I don't see him playing for Arsenal again. I've got a feeling he will be leaving. And it's not a bad thing. We'll get a relatively decent fee for him. And maybe he'll end up staying in France or he'll go to Italy or something like that. Up next, we've got Patino. For me, he's not good enough to be in this role just yet, or maybe in this slightly more number 8 role where Xhaka was playing. But I would love Patino to be a part of our future. For me, he would be back down here and loaned back out. But apparently, he wants to leave for first-team football. So Patino would also be sold this summer, which is a real shame. And I think he'd be a little bit naive to do that when there's a whole midfield rejuvenation going on. But I also understand, if he gets a move to, let's say, a Crystal Palace or whatever, he might get some really good first-team action. And before you know it, he's made the right call. He's playing Premier League football week in, week out. He's definitely good enough to play in the Premier League for a mid-table, lower-table team. No doubt about it. Up next, we've got Balogun. Now, the problem we've got with Balogun is he has openly said he wants to be here. He wants to be the main man. That ain't going to happen. If anything, right now, he's probably... this is crazy, but he's probably like that. He's behind Trossard as well. Trossard is probably better up front than Balogun, in Arteta's opinion. I don't think Balogun is ever going to make it as a first-team striker whilst we have Jesus. And I don't think Nketiah is going anywhere. So I think Balogun, unfortunately, is going to be sold as well. AC Milan, RB Leipzig, those seem to be the most likely destinations, and we could get upwards of 35, 40 million for him, which is not bad. Next, we've got Pepe, of course, our record signing over on this right wing. Did okay. I know a lot of people were laughing at him at the time, saying it was a waste of money and that it was just a bad transfer. But if you look at his stats, he's outperformed Anthony this season. That he's had a relatively okay start at Manchester United, but Pepe got more stats than him. And of course, Mudryk, a bit more difficult, seeing as he moved in the winter. But in general, Pepe really hasn't been that bad since he joined Arsenal, but he will be leaving, and I don't think there's any question that he will be leaving. It's probably already being done. Next, we've got Marquinhos. Again, another right winger. I guess you could get away playing him on the left. Young Brazilian player that we brought in last summer, went out on loan to Norwich, did okay at the start, kind of fell off towards the end. Who knows what the plan is with him, but I don't anticipate we would be selling him. If anything, he'll be going back down into the loan pile. And then up next, we've got Sambi Lokonga, who, of course, found himself playing at Crystal Palace in that number 8 role with Vieira. I believe Hodgson came in and didn't play him so much. Little bit of a shame for Sambi. I think he said it on his Instagram that it was a really good season up until the end, which I think he was saying I wasn't being played. Sambi, for me, is, again, a bit of a potential to be a good player for us, but I don't think he's ever going to be the guy. And we're Arsenal Football Club. We're in the Champions League now. We're title contenders. I don't think we put up with that anymore. So either he goes out on loan again. I've heard Burnley are interested. He could link up with Company, fellow Belgian, or we sell. And I think because it's only been a short amount of time that we've had Sambi, it's just 2 seasons, it's not over yet. I feel like maybe he could still have an impact at the club. So I'd loan him out again. I wouldn't necessarily sell him just yet. So that's it. That is how the team looks, okay? Going into next season, this is clearly not enough. Midfield options, very, very weak. And we need 2 wing-backs. And that is a big, big problem for me. And this is the first player that I'm going to talk about. And there's no name. I don't know who we're looking to bring in this kind of backup role. No idea. I haven't seen us linked with any left-backs, which is worrying. But, of course, it's very early stages in the window. So we're going to leave that as a bit of a question mark right now. But if Tierney goes, we absolutely need to replace him. In terms of the right-back position, there's 2 players that we've been linked with. One of them is Simicon, who is a centre-back, right-back, so basically another Ben White, and another Tomiyasu. We've also been linked with Bowie. Is that how you say it? Bowie, the Galatasaray right-back from France. Potential that both these players are Arsenal-bound, but I'm hearing more about Bowie than, I don't know if that's how you say it, by the way, than Simicon. So I think we're going to take them out. But actually, I've just forgot one player. Oh, conveniently, there's Cancelo linked. Now, obviously, I'm not brain dead. Cancelo to Arsenal doesn't necessarily make the most sense. Okay, he's just won 2 league titles this season. He's won the Premier League and the Bundesliga. Why would you go to Arsenal? But do you know what? It could happen. It genuinely could happen. So whilst I would do it if I could, I don't think it's realistic. I don't see it happening anytime soon, but you just never know. And let's face it, that would be an incredible signing if we were to get Cancelo. So we'll leave him in for now. But I think, if anything, it'd be more likely that we did go for a player like Bowie. But Bowie, he's French, so it must be Bowie. I don't know. Anyway, we'll move on, seeing as that's the defence somewhat sorted. And that's if Ben White is going to be seen as more of a centre-back. Of course, with Holding leaving, we might still go in for a centre-back, which would make more sense why we're looking at a player like Simicon, who could also play there, and then Ben White would stay as a right-back. But I don't know if that's going to happen. We can find out shortly. Moving into the most important position that we need to reinforce in this summer. We need at least 2 midfielders. We need a defensive midfielder and a number 8, or again, another defensive midfielder, especially if Emile Smith-Rowe is going to be used in that number 8 role. It's difficult because I feel like he has played most of his career in this position on the left side, but I truly believe he could play that Granit Xhaka role very well. So we'll see. But the first player that we are going to talk about, he's been linked with us for a long time now, and I truly believe it's going to happen. Declan Rice, baby. Rice, baby. I want Declan Rice so bad. He is my number one transfer this summer. We have to get him, okay? And if we can't get Declan Rice, just dissolve the club, because that is the kind of player that we need to be attracting. Top talents that have so much of a ceiling, so much potential. I love Declan Rice. I absolutely love the guy. I think he's actually perfect. And you know what? He could easily play in this role as well. I see him as potentially a Granit Xhaka role like we've seen last season, where he is going to get forward and contribute to goals, with goals, I should say. But also he will get back and help defend. So if anything, I feel like Jorginho would be more of our DM role next season, and take over from Partey, and maybe Declan Rice is going to be a bit more of a box-to-box player. But of course, who cares what we think? It's down to the club, it's down to Arteta. We know that Arteta wants Declan Rice, and he would elevate our midfield so much. But we have other options, and they're all for this position here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move Emile Smith-Rowe inside here, and this is where it might get a bit tricky because I don't have space. But we are currently linked with Gundogan, Caicedo, and Zubimendi. Some absolutely insane options. And I think, if we're getting Cancelo for the reported 70 million, Declan Rice for a reported 100 minimum, and then we're buying a left back as well, I don't think it allows us to have enough money to get Caicedo and Rice in midfield. Caicedo is going to be a good 70, 80, 90 million. So I think potentially, because I would rather Rice, Caicedo maybe isn't going to be joining this summer, and it would leave potentially Gundogan as a better option because he would be a free signing. Now, of course, that would mean Zubimendi wouldn't be signed either. He has a pretty high price tag. But Gundogan, okay, now hear me out. Gundogan is the last player that City should be selling right now. He is so in form. Well, okay, behind maybe a couple of players, but he has been vital for City in the run-in. And I would argue that without Gundogan's goals, yeah, okay, they might have found goals elsewhere, but they would have definitely had less of an impact. He's been absolutely huge for them. He's their captain. And the fact that he could be leaving blows my mind. And if it's true, bring him to the carpet on a 2-year deal, 3-year deal, whatever. He's still got that ability, clearly, and he would be a massive, massive signing. But, we've got 200 million reportedly, and that's excluding player sales. So let's say we make 50 to 70 million from the player sales. It leaves us a pretty healthy amount of money, and it wouldn't surprise me if we are able to do a madness and bring in a Caicedo as well. You never know. It's possible. It's not impossible. That's the thing. It could potentially happen. I just don't know if I believe we would have that kind of money. I don't know. If you're signing just Rice and Caicedo, it's almost 200 million itself. And I don't know how then you get Cancelo, a left back, Gundogan. I don't know. I just don't think Gundogan would join us. I don't think Cancelo would join us. So it wouldn't surprise me if we end up with maybe Bowie instead. So he would just be in that position. I don't know if he would be a starter for us. He looks like a decent enough talent. And by the way, I haven't even mentioned the fact that we have been looking at Diaby for so long as well to provide good backup and potentially a starter as well, with Saka having played every Premier League game last season. I mean, the boy can't do that forever. He's going to pick up an injury at some point. And if Nelson isn't at the level required to be that step in for months at a time, if there was an injury, then Diaby would, of course, be a very good option. But he would be, upwards of 60 million as well. It's very expensive. Football is very expensive. So I think what I would like to do is do this. It'd be one of those. And I think, if anything, it would be Gundogan. But that's how I see us going into the new season. I think I'm kind of understanding where Arteta's coming from. He likes to have multiple players in multiple positions and players that can play in multiple positions, that are versatile. And I don't see why we can't go into the new season with a squad like this and really go for it. But I'm very intrigued to see what's going to happen here, because I have no idea what left back we could be looking at. He's going to pull something out of nowhere we're going to sign some young Spanish player out of nowhere and just be like, oh my God, he's world class, you know? But anyway, thank you for watching, guys. As I said at the start, I love these videos. I love making these. I'm probably going to post this tomorrow. So who knows? It might be old news already. We might have signed Declan Rice. I doubt it. But I'm going to come back to this in a couple of weeks and see how close I was, or in a couple of months, really, I guess, and see if I managed to get any of these right, because this is just a bit of fun. I'm not saying this is what's going to happen, but it's what I want to happen. I think this would be a 9 out of 10 window.